The first picture of how a controversial Chinese-designed nuclear power station to be built in Essex could look has been published today. It would be the first of its kind in Europe and built near the old nuclear power station at Bradwell. It's part of a wider deal involving the power stations at Hinkley Point and in Somerset and at Sizewell in Suffolk. This from our business correspondent, Richard Bond.
It would be one of the biggest foreign investments this region has ever seen, helping to keep the lights on as we move to a low-carbon world. But the proposed Bradwell B nuclear power station is highly controversial. It will be designed and majority owned by the Chinese. This week it started the second phase of a four-part approval process.
We're looking to assess with the Office of Nuclear Regulation the reactor design for high standards of safety and security, and particularly from our perspective, we're looking for its environmental performance. That's the key thing for the Environment Agency, to check how capable it is at working without environmental harm.
There's a nationwide drive to build new nuclear stations. Work is underway in Somerset on Hinkley Point C. On our coast, 2 new stations are planned. The French firm EDF wants to build Sizewell C to its own design. EDF would own 80%, the Chinese firm CGN 20%. At Bradwell, the Chinese would build to their own design. CGN would own 2/3, EDF 1/3.
The Chinese see Bradwell B as a loss leader entry to their design, the Hualong one, for further construction in OECD countries, internationally, and of course in the UK.
Bradwell B would be built next to the old Bradwell A, which is being decommissioned. It would be a major boost to the local economy, but there's huge opposition. It would be on the shores of the Blackwater estuary, a haven for wildlife.
The Bradwell proposed new power station is nearly 10 times the size of the one that I see. It is environmentally irresponsible to build a power station on land that is going to be flooded because of climate change.
There are security worries too. Many say the Chinese shouldn't be allowed to control critical parts of our energy infrastructure. The public now has the chance to comment on the proposals, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to influence whether this massive project actually happens.
And Richard is here now. Of course, we don't know whether Sizewell C or Bradwell B will ever be built, do we?
No. I mean, neither has got planning permission or anything like it. I mean, the timetable for Sizewell C has been repeatedly delayed over the last decade or so. With these projects, there's always going to be a huge amount of uncertainty. Their costs tend to go up over time, and the planning process very often takes longer than is expected.
OK, so what could the timetable for Bradwell B be?
Well, I think if it's built and running by the mid-2030s, I think it'll be very, very good going. There's about 7 years of consents and licensing to go through, and that's before 10 years of actually building the thing. It's such a huge thing. The batting order for these various nuclear stations is Hinkley Point first, then Sizewell, and then after that, Bradwell.
And there was a meeting last night about Sizewell C.
Yes, this was a community forum where the company met with people living in the area near the building site, or the proposed building site. EDF wants to build an accommodation complex near Eastbridge, where more than 2,000 construction workers would live for 10 years building that scheme. That plan hasn't gone down well. EDF is under all sorts of pressure to amend its plans for the accommodation complex, but the two sides are still talking.
Richard, as always, thank you very much. The first new spitting image puppet for 7 years is going